First in the spotlight tonight is Phil O'Rourke, a transport worker from Chipping Sodbury. He's answering questions on U2. Next, Mel KINSEY from Scarborough, who's retired. His subject, America's First Ladies. Neville Twitchell is a customer services assistant from Essex. His specialist subject, the films of Stanley Kubrick. And Fiona Somerville is a headhunter from Surrey. Her subject, Athens in the Age of Pericles. And welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphrys. Tonight's contenders, like all those who've gone before, have been swatting up like mad on their specialist subjects. But they can't swat up on the questions in the general knowledge round because they either know the answers or they don't. They get 2 minutes in the first round and 2.5 minutes of general knowledge. So let's have our first contender, please. And your name is?
Phil O'Rourke.
Your occupation?
Transport worker.
And your chosen subject?
U2.
U2 in 2 minutes, starting now. Paul Hewson and Dave Evans, now better known as Bono and The Edge, were members of the band Feedback, along with Adam Clayton, Larry Mullen Jr. and The Edge's brother Dick. At which school in Dublin did the band play their first gig?
Mount Temple Complex.
Yes. Who produced U2's first 3 albums, Boy, October and War, as well as their 2004 album, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb? He also mixed some of the tracks on the Joshua Tree.
Steve Lillywhite.
Yes. Which song is the opening track on U2's album, The Unforgettable Fire?
A Sort of Homecoming.
Yep, the song Angel of Harlem, which appeared on the Rattle and Hum album, is a tribute to which jazz singer?
Billie Holiday.
Yes, what is the name of the young boy who appears on the cover of the U2 albums Boy and War? He's the younger brother of a friend of Bono.
Peter Rowan.
Yep. Which Oscar-winning actor introduced U2 at the Live Aid concert at Wembley Stadium in July 1985?
Pass.
What is the final track on the album Zooropa? It features vocals by the country music legend Johnny Cash.
The Wanderer.
Yep. During their 1987 tour, U2 occasionally appeared as their own support act in the guise of a fictional country group. What was the group called?
Pass.
Sweetest Thing was originally the B-side to Where the Streets Have No Name before being released as a single in '98. Who inspired Bono to write the song?
Ali Hewson.
His wife, yes. Which artist inducted U2 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2005? Bono had inducted this artist himself 6 years earlier.
Bruce Springsteen.
Yes. Larry Mullen Jr. and Adam Clayton had a UK top 10 hit in '96 with the theme tune to which Tom Cruise film?
Mission Impossible.
Yes, in 1986, U2, Sting, Lou Reed, Bryan Adams and Peter Gabriel, among others, took part in a tour on behalf of Amnesty International. What was the name of the tour?
Pass.
The song by Passengers, a collaboration between U2 and Brian Eno, features vocals by Pavarotti and was premiered at the annual Pavarotti and Friends concert in Modena, Italy on the 12th of September '95. Which song?
Miss Sarajevo.
Yes, U2's song The Hands That Built America was nominated for an Oscar and won a Golden Globe after it featured in a Martin Scorsese film. Which film?
The Gangs of New York.
Is correct. You had 3 passes. That tour on behalf of Amnesty International was the Conspiracy of Hope, which you now know. The Dalton Brothers was the fictional country group, the guys they adopted, and Jack Nicholson, no less, introduced U2 at the Live Aid concert in '85. But, Phil, you have 11 points.
Thank you.
And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Mel KINSEY.
Your occupation?
Retired.
And your specialist subject?
The First Ladies of the USA.
First Ladies in 2 minutes. Here we go. Early in his first term, Bill Clinton appointed his wife Hillary to head the task force on a subject that was the centrepiece of his legislative agenda. What was it?
Health.
Yes. Who was the last First Lady to be born in the 18th century? Her major achievement was the establishment of the White House Library.
Abigail Fillmore.
Yes. Before becoming First Lady in her own right as the wife of President James Madison, Dolly Madison acted as First Lady to a president who'd been widowed. Who was he?
Thomas Jefferson.
Yes, Lyndon Johnson's wife was supposedly known as Lady Bird because a nurse described her as being as pretty as a ladybird when she was born, and the name stuck. What was her real first name?
Claudia.
Yes, which First Lady announced her own foundation for American libraries? She holds a master's degree in library science.
Pat Nixon.
No, Laura Bush. George Washington's wife, Martha, joined her husband in New York after his inauguration and moved into the presidential mansion on which road?
Pass.
When Betty Ford gave her first press conference, she announced her support for the ratification of an amendment first introduced to Congress in 1923. What was it?
Equal rights.
Yes. What famous nickname was given to the wife of Rutherford Hayes because she didn't like to serve alcohol at the White House?
Lemonade Lucy.
Yes. What is the name of the African-American woman whom Barbara Bush appointed to the prominent East Wing post of press secretary shortly after the election of her husband as president?
Pass.
From which body did Eleanor Roosevelt resign in 1939 after it refused permission for the black singer Marian Anderson to sing in Constitution Hall?
Daughter of the American Revolution.
Yes. Who gave up her post at the University of Chicago Medical Center after her husband's election as president, describing herself as a stay-at-home mom-in-chief?
Michelle Obama.
Yes. Jacqueline Bouvier, who would later marry John F. Kennedy, started a job in 1951 as the inquiring camera girl for which newspaper?
The Washington News.
No, Times Herald. What was the name of the mental institution in which Mary Todd Lincoln was confined in May 1875 after a judge in Illinois committed her to the care of her son, Robert?
Bellevue.
Yes, during her husband's election campaign, Rosalind Carter was described by the New York Times reporter Judy Clemsrud as someone who evokes the image of a steel...
Magnolia.
Yes, absolutely. Tough lady. 2 passes. The name of the woman whom Barbara Bush appointed to the East Wing post of press secretary was Anna Perez, and it was on Cherry Street where George Washington's wife, Martha, joined her husband in New York. Mel, you have 10 points.
Thank you.
And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Neville Twitchell.
Your occupation?
Customer Services Assistant.
And your specialist subject?
The films of Stanley Kubrick.
Films of Stanley Kubrick. In 2 minutes, here we go. Kubrick's The Shining was based on the novel of the same name by which writer?
Stephen King.
Yes. Which US Marine recruitment depot in South Carolina is the setting for the first act of Full Metal Jacket?
Paris Island.
Yes. In A Clockwork Orange, who's the leader of the rival gang of droogs that Alex DeLarge and his gang fight at a derelict casino?
Pass.
In Dr. Strangelove, at which American Air Force base is Jack D. Ripper played by Sterling Hayden, the commanding general?
Burpelson.
Yes, in Kubrick's last film, Eyes Wide Shut, Tom Cruise's character, Dr. Bill Harford, needs a password and a costume to gain entry to the mysterious masked party at a country mansion. What's the password?
Fidelio.
Yes, in 2001, A Space Odyssey, the first evidence of extraterrestrial life, a 4-million-year-old black monolith, is found buried 40 feet beneath the Earth-Moon's surface near which crater?
Pass.
What 3 words are written on Private Joker's combat helmet in Full Metal Jacket?
Pass.
Atmospheres, Lux Eterna and Requiem are all pieces of classical music that feature in 2001 A Space Odyssey. Who composed them?
Strauss.
Ligeti. At which British film studio was The Shining shot?
Elstree.
Yes. Which actor appears in 3 consecutive Kubrick films? He plays Alex DeLarge's father in A Clockwork Orange, one of Lady Lyndon's advisors in Barry Lyndon, and Delbert Grady in The Shining.
Philip Stone.
Yes. In Lolita, Humbert Humbert accepts an invitation from Charlotte Hayes to lodge at her house for the summer in a peaceful New Hampshire town. Which one?
Pass.
Which Rolling Stones song plays over the closing credits of Full Metal Jacket?
Paint It Black.
Yes, in Dr. Strangelove, an American emergency war plan allows a lower echelon commander to order nuclear retaliation following a sneak attack if the normal chain of command's been disrupted. What's the plan called?
Pass.
In Spartacus, Crassus's house servant Antoninus, played by Tony Curtis, was a singer of songs from which island?
Pass.
Well, I can tell you because we're out of time. Sicily was the island. And the other passes, you have 6 altogether. Plan R was what came into action if the normal chain of command was disrupted. Ramsdale, West Ramsdale, was where Humpert went to have a little break in the summer. Born to Kill were the 3 words written on Private Joker's combat helmet in Full Metal Jacket. Tycho was the name of that crater in 2001, A Space Odyssey, and the leader of the rival gang of droogs in Clockwork Orange was Billy Boy. You have, Neville, 7 points. And our final contender, please. And your name is?
Fiona Somerville.
Your occupation?
Headhunter.
And your chosen subject?
Athens in the age of Pericles.
Athens in the age of Pericles. 2 minutes, here we go. Pericles is one of Athens' greatest statesmen in the mid-5th century BC. From which controversial aristocratic clan was Pericles descended through his mother, Agoriste?
Alcmaeonids.
Yes, in his speech for those killed in the first year of the Peloponnesian War, what form of government did Pericles define as by the many, not the few?
Democracy.
Yes, Pericles led the Athenians to victory in 455 against a city near the Gulf of Corinth. Which city?
Argos.
No, Sicyon. To which god did the Athenians dedicate the temple at Sunium on the most southerly tip of Attica?
Poseidon.
Yes, which island did Pericles call the eyesore of the Piraeus? Athens had a long history of commercial rivalry with the island.
Salamis.
Egona. Who does Aristotle say was suspected of the murder of the reformer Ephialtes that ultimately led to the supremacy of Pericles in Athens?
Kimon.
Aristoticus. Which of Pericles' reforms was condemned by Plato for supposedly making Athenians idle and grasping?
Free attendance at the plays.
No, the introduction of state pay. Under the reforms of Ephialtes and Pericles, how many citizens were selected annually for the panel from which jurors were chosen?
6,000.
Yes, which Athenian building project was threatened by internal opponents who invited the Spartans to intervene?
The reconstruction of the Parthenon.
The long walls connecting Athens to Piraeus. What was the name of the playwright who held the office of treasurer of the Delian League from 443 to 442 BC and also acted as a general in the Samian War?
Sophocles.
Yes. Which Roman writer described the Olympian statue of Pericles sculpted by Chresilas of Crete as a figure worthy of its title?
Plutarch.
Pliny the Elder. Which building on the Acropolis was designed by Mnesicles, though it was never completed to his specification? Yes. A dramatist made a number of joking references to the appearance of Pericles' bald patch in such plays as Nemesis and Chirones. What was his name?
Aristophanes.
Kratinos. In the early 430s, Athens issued a decree against another city, denying it access to the markets of Athens and the harbours of its empire. Which city?
Megara.
Yes, that's correct. No passes, Fiona. You have 7 points. Well, it's a close contest. Let's have a look at the scores. In joint third place, 7 points apiece, Neville Twitchell and Fiona Somerville. Second place, 10 points, Mel Kinsey. First place, 11 points, Phil O'Rourke. So it is the general knowledge round now, and if there's a tie at the end of it, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if they're tied on passes as well, there will be a tie break, and the 6 highest scoring runners-up will be able to claim a place in the semi-finals. So plenty to play for. Let's get on with it and ask Neville to join us again, please. And you start out with 7 points, but you get 2.5 minutes of general knowledge, so plenty of time to catch up. Here we go. Which mainly nocturnal birds of prey make up the order Strigiformes?
Falcons.
The owl. Which town was known to the Romans as Luguvellium and was repeatedly sacked and pillaged by Danes, Normans and border raiders? It is now the only city in Cumbria.
Pass.
A famous work by a painter who was one of the founders of Neo-Impressionism inspired Stephen Sondheim's musical Sunday in the Park with George. Who was the painter?
Pass.
Who won his only Oscar for his role as Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady?
Rex Harrison.
Yes. What is the name of the marooned pirate in the novel Treasure Island who dreams of toasted cheese?
Ben Gunn.
Yes. Catherine I, whose family were Lithuanian peasants, became Empress of Russia in 1725 as the widow of the Tsar. What was his name?
Alexander.
Peter the Great. Amy Ann are the Christian names of a Welsh-born singer who topped the UK charts in 2008 with Mercy. She's better known by her surname. What is it?
Pass.
What series of international scientific conferences is named after the village in Nova Scotia where the first one took place in 1957? Their initial purpose was to discuss ways of reducing the nuclear arms race.
Pass.
In economics, what term is used for the ability of an asset to be readily converted into cash without reducing its value?
Liquidity.
Yes. What is the occupation of the title character in Puccini's opera Tosca?
Pass.
What light brown spice used to flavour a variety of foods from confections to curries comes from the dried bark of a member of the laurel family native to Sri Lanka and neighbouring regions?
Pass.
Which American novelist who died in 2006 created the private detective Mike Hammer?
Mickey Spillane.
Yes. What mythical flying beast is the offspring of a male griffin and a female horse? It's the subject of one of Hagrid's first Care of Magical Creatures lessons in the Harry Potter series.
Pass.
What name for a member of a Jewish sect that fiercely resisted Rome until the fall of Masada in 73 AD is now used for any fanatical follower?
Chauvinist.
Zealot. T.S. Eliot's series of poems Burnt Norton, East Coker, Dry Salvages and Little Gidding were published together in 1943 under what title?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
T.S. Eliot's series of poems Burnt Norton, East Coker, Dry Salvages and Little Gidding were published together in 1943 under what title?
The Wasteland.
The Four Quartets. Yeah. You had 7 passes. A hippogriff is that mythical flying beast. Yes, I know. Cinnamon is the light brown spice that we were looking for. The occupation of the title character in Tosca is, well, she's an opera singer. Pugwash is the name of the conference, the international conferences, where they try to find ways of reducing the nuclear arms race. Duffy is the surname of Amy Ann. Surat was the painter who was one of the founders of Neo-Impressionism. And Carlisle is the town that was known to the Romans as Lugar Vallium and was repeatedly sacked and pillaged by the Danes, etc. Total now, Neville of 11 points. And now, Fiona, again, please. And you also start out with 7 points. Let's see how you do in your 2.5 minutes of general knowledge. Here we go. In the human body, what name is given to the 4 back molars that usually come through in adolescence or later life?
Wisdom teeth.
Yes. Which American composer's 3rd symphony, completed in 1946, includes the theme of Fanfare for the Common Man in the final movement?
Samuel Barber.
Aaron Copland. Bud and Lou were the first names of a 1940s and 50s film comedy duo who in their films met the Invisible Man, Frankenstein and the Mummy, among others. How are they better known?
Oh, pass.
The letters NOM on a bottle of tequila indicate that the drink meets the standards for quality and provenance set out by the government of what country?
Mexico.
Yes. What type of religious educational institutions were pioneered in 1780 by Robert Raikes, a Gloucester journalist?
Church schools?
No, Sunday schools. An abbey in Wiltshire contains the tomb, though not the body, of Athelstan, the first Saxon to be recognised as King of all England. In which town is the abbey?
Laycock.
Malmesbury. Matthew Brady, who was born in about 1823 at Lake George, New York State, is particularly renowned for his photographic record of which conflict?
American Civil War?
Yes. What 3-word French phrase is used in English to describe something that is fashionable?
Oh. Je ne sais pas. Pass.
À la mode. In what event have Lizzie Yarnold and Amy Williams both won an Olympic gold medal? Lizzie won hers in 2014, Amy in 2010.
Skeleton.
Yes, Skeleton Sled. Who was inspired to write a series of children's books after teaching children to sail on constant water in 1928?
Arthur Ransom.
Yes. Which Turkish city is home to the Ataturk Mausoleum and was formerly known as Angora?
Antioch.
Ankara. Great
yes.
Pomeranian and Arctic are members of a family of generally brown-coloured aggressive seabirds that feed by robbing other birds of their kill. What's this family of birds called?
Tern.
No, skuas. The private detective V.I. Wachowski was created by the novelist Sarah Paretsky. In which American city does Wachowski live and work?
Chicago.
Yes, the former keyboard player with the progressive rock band Yes went on to make albums such as The 6 Wives of Henry VIII and Journey to the Centre of the Earth. What's his name?
Pass.
The Lambton worm, a creature caught in the River Wear and thrown down a well where it grows to a monstrous size, features in the mythology of which English county?
Yorkshire?
No, County Durham. The sale of the manuscript of the novel The Vicar of Wakefield was arranged by Dr. Johnson to save his friend, the author, from arrest for debt. Who was the author?
Thomas Gray.
Goldsmith. The lament Flowers of the Forest is particularly associated with the Battle of 1513, where the Scots were heavily defeated by the English. By what name is the battle known?
Flodden?
Yes,
Oh,
Flodden.
thank you.
Always worth having a go. You had 2 passes. The former keyboard player with the prog rock band Yes was Rick Wakeman. And Bud and Lou, otherwise known as Abbott and Costello.
Yes, yes.
You have a total now of 14 points. And now Mel again, please. And you start out with 10 points, so the score to beat at the moment is 14, but let's see what you do with your general knowledge. 2.5 minutes. Who was the god of love in Roman mythology? He was usually depicted as a naked winged boy with a bow and a quiver of arrows and was the equivalent of the Greek god Eros.
Cupid.
Yep. In meteorology, what general term is used for winds between force 7 and force 9 on the Beaufort scale?
Gale.
Yep. A painting by John Everett Millais of a young boy playing with a bowl of soap suds was originally called A Child's World and was later used to advertise a brand of soap. By what title is it now known?
Bubbles.
Yeah, 3 mounds of waste from an industry in the Wigan area were known locally as the Wigan Alps, or the Three Sisters. What was the industry?
Coal.
Yeah. Who wrote the 6 Brandenburg concertos, the last of which was completed in 1721?
Bach.
Yeah. Cape Byron is the most easterly point of the mainland of which Commonwealth country?
Australia.
Yeah. Which private detective was played by Richard Roundtree in a 1971 film of the same name? His nephew and namesake was played by Samuel L. Jackson in the 2000 sequel.
Shaft.
Yeah. What large, thick-skinned fruit native to Africa but now widely cultivated has varieties including Sugar Baby and Charleston Grey?
Pomegranate.
Watermelon. Which metallic element is the most electrically conductive?
Cadmium.
No, it's silver. Which television game show featured the catchphrase, "What are the scores on the doors?" and "Good game, good game"?
Blankety blank.
The Generation Game. Elvis Costello married a Canadian jazz pianist and singer in 2003. What's her name?
Diana Krall.
Yeah, the novel Bella Poldark, first published in 2002, is the 12th and last in a series of novels set in Cornwall about the Poldark family. Who wrote the series?
Winston Graham.
Yes, which band co-founded and later fronted by Bob Marley is said to have got its name because they all started out crying?
The Whalers.
Yes, what word is used for the branch of agriculture concerned with vine growing and the cultivation of the grape?
Pass.
What is Southeast Asia's only landlocked country? Its capital lies on the Mekong River.
Laos.
Yeah. Which instrument of torture was known as the Duke of Exeter's daughter after the Duke introduced it into the Tower of London in the 15th century?
The rack.
Yep. In which sport did Fred Perry win the men's singles world championships in 1929, 5 years before he first won the men's singles tennis title at Wimbledon?
Table tennis.
Yep. Who gave a speech to the Royal Institute of British Architects in 1984 describing the proposed extension to the National Gallery as a monstrous carbuncle on the face of a much-loved and elegant friend?
Prince Charles.
Yes, against which city-state did Rome fight the 3 Punic Wars? The first began in 264 BC, the last ended in 146 BC.
Carthage.
Yep. Which Indian city is the centre of Sikhism and the site of the Sikhs' principal place of worship, the Golden Temple?
Amritsar.
Yes. We are out of time. That one pass, the word used for the branch of agriculture concerned with vine growing and all that, is viticulture. Yep. And you have, Mel, a total of 26 points. And finally, Phil again, please. So, you start out with 11, but the score to beat has gone up rather a lot. It is now, as you just heard, 26. So let's see if you can do it. Here we go. How many cells make up the simple organism called an amoeba?
1.
Yep. In architecture, what name is given to the central stone at the crown of an arch or vault that locks the whole together?
Keystone.
Yes, in 2009, a 12-metre-high sculpture entitled Quantum Leap was unveiled in Shrewsbury to commemorate the town's associations with a 19th century English scientist. Who was he?
Faraday.
Darwin. The album Carry On Up the Charts, which reached #1 in the UK album charts in 1994, was a greatest hits compilation by which band?
Beautiful South.
Yes. What is the title of Bertolt Brecht and Kurt Weill's 1928 version of The Beggar's Opera?
Pass.
An Argyll, named after its supposed designer, John Campbell, the 5th Duke of Argyll, is an insulated serving vessel shaped like a coffee pot and designed for keeping what liquid warm at the dinner table?
Port.
Gravy. John Schlesinger won a Best Director Oscar for his 1969 film that starred John Voight and Dustin Hoffman. What was it called?
The Graduate.
Midnight Cowboy. The River Danube flows through 4 capital cities on its way to the Black Sea. Which of the cities lies furthest upstream?
Vienna.
Yes, the name of an American general became synonymous with a traitor in America when he changed his allegiance to the British in 1779 after being court-martialed for violating military regulations. Who was he?
Pass.
Which creature do the March Hare and the Mad Hatter try to put into the teapot at the tea party in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland?
Pass.
The architect who designed many of the grandiose buildings of the Nazi era and was Hitler's armaments minister from 1942 to 45 was the only leading Nazi to express remorse at the Nuremberg trials. What was his name?
Albert Speer.
Yes, which animal is said to have become the first in the Chinese zodiac because he won a race to reach the Jade Emperor by riding on the back of the ox and jumping off at the last minute?
Rat.
Yes, who resigned from his cabinet post of Leader of the House of Commons in March 2003 in protest over the war with Iraq?
Robin Cook.
Yes, what general term for a fleshy fruit with a stone comes from the Latin and Greek for an overripe olive?
Pomegranate.
No, droop. Which Australian-born television presenter wrote the autobiographical works Unreliable Memoirs and Falling Towards England?
Clive James.
Yes, the common name of a large group of insect-eating plants comes from the drops of sticky fluid on the ends of the tiny hairs that they use to trap their prey. What's the name?
No, it's gone past.
No, it's gone. Well, I'll tell you. Sundews.
Oh, of course. Yes.
There we go. And the other pass is the little creature that tried to put in the teapot was a dormouse.
Oh, of course.
Yep. Benedict Arnold was the traitor. His name became synonymous with traitors and treachery. And the Brecht Weill opera, their version of the Beggar's Opera, was the Threepenny Opera.
Of course.
Phil, you have 19 points. So, a very clear winner. Let's have a look at all the scores. In 4th place with 11 points, Neville Twitchell. 3rd place, 14 points. Fiona Somerville. 2nd place, 19 points. Phil O'Rourke. 1st place with 26 points. Mel Kinsey. Which means that Mel is tonight's winner and he goes through to the semi-finals. Congratulations to him. If you would like to be a contender in the next series, do go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind, and you can follow us on Twitter @MastermindQuiz. And do join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.